Peace.
Listen, welcome to another simple episode of Speak On It. It's your host, Dom. Biv, get your popcorn ready. That's all I want to say. Get your popcorn ready. Listen, we live on YouTube, Facebook. Make sure that you go subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash that like button. Let's jump right into it. Let's start with these. Let's start with the New Year's Six Bowl. Um, it's fresh, so let's start right. Let's start right at the top. Clemson, Ohio State. What I want to do is I want to shout out to my guy Justin Fields for doing this thing last night.
Absolutely. He was balling.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this. It looked like he was auditioning. Looked like he was auditioning. Remember, I remember. I don't know if I was asking you or I was asking somebody else, but is it a full blown conclusion where that Trevor is the number one overall pick? I asked it because I felt it. I felt it in my gut. Like maybe the way the league is trending, that he can jump into the number one spot. And I'm talking about Justin Fields, the way he can move out of the pocket, the way he throws the ball. Last night, Justin Fields was like the best quarterback in college.
No disagreement there. No
He looked like
disagreement there. When you consider the hit that he took, with the rib situation, like he was wincing all night, but he came right in the very first play after the hit and threw a strike to the pylon. Then he came down and they drove right down the field and he threw an absolute dime in the end zone to the tight end on the like. I'm not saying he played better, but he didn't fall off after the injury. I think he said something. He made a statement last night to where the Jets still might get Trevor Lawrence. I came out of that game feeling like I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets still get their quarterback with Trevor Lawrence. I felt like the Jags were probably like, this kid just said something. This kid is a little bit more box office, and he's got Trevor can move, Trevor can run, but he's not the athlete that Justin Fields is. But I think that Justin last night, because Clemson's secondary, I know they were out their top safety for the first half. They got him back in the second half, and it didn't look like it was much of it. It didn't look like it was much of a difference. So I felt as though Justin put himself in a conversation where I don't think anybody would be uncomfortable with taking him number one.
I'm gonna tell you this:
he can't fall off against Alabama, though. He can't go out and stinker up against Alabama. He doesn't have to win against Alabama. I don't think he had to win last night.
I'm with you.
He just had to put on a good show. But the star of the show for me last night was Trey Sermon again. Like I know. Justin was phenomenal, but that run game was what really set the tone early. Both Justin running the football, scrambling, but Trey Sermon running the football was just he was a beast. He was a beast again last night, running and catching the football.
My thing is this, right? And I'm gonna say it right here, right now. If I had the number one overall pick, I'm taking Justin Fields. I'm going to take Justin Fields. I'm just as a forward thinker. That's that the league is trending that way. I'm taking Justin Fields. No disrespect to Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked like the best quarterback in college football all season long. And even if we're talking about last year, he didn't look like the best quarterback in football last year. That was Joe Burrow. Talking about the year before that, like Trevor, he took over for Kelly Bryant, right? But Kelly Bryant was actually, I think Kelly Bryant was undefeated when he took over for him. I'm not mistaken. Kelly Bryant was undefeated when he took over from him. Now, granted, Trevor has only lost twice in his whole career, his whole college career. However, he's had moments where he looks like he's not the best quarterback in college football. The reason that he is ranked the number one quarterback is because his build and his makeup. He's 6'6". He looks like the boy in the Chargers. He looks like Justin Herbert. Prototypical, big, tall, strong. Let's be real, white quarterback, pocket quarterback is going to dissect. He looks like Peyton Manning. That's what he looks like. But and I love I love Peyton Manning. But if I had a choice in their prime to take Peyton Manning or to take Lamar Jackson in their prime, I'm gonna take Lamar Jackson over Peyton Manning because of what the premium he brings me with his arm and his legs and the mind of the game. We can teach later on. So let's be real, Peyton Manning didn't look incredible his rookie season. I think he was 26, 28, something like that, 28, 26, something like that. He threw like 26 interceptions.
Yeah, he threw a lot of interceptions.
But he didn't look. He was 3-13. He didn't look like the Peyton Manning, the all-time great Peyton Manning. But we've seen the trajectory of his career. If I had the number one pick, just based off of what we've seen this year and what we've seen last night, I'm taking Justin Fields. Now I know you said Trey Sermon was the star of the show last night. He did his thing, but the star of the show to me last night was Justin Fields. The plays he was making, like you said, the shot he took in his back was ribs messed up. Came back, next play threw a dart. There was one point in the game he got hit again. He was going, he slid, he was sliding. The dude came and hit him. His leg bent the wrong way. I said, man, he's done. He's done. Dude, he lifted his arms up, said, picked him up, took him on another touchdown drive. It felt like every time Clemson got close, Justin Fields had an answer. That is what you want to see out of your star. The last two times I've seen Trevor Lawrence in a position to be great, he didn't look that good. It is what it is. Let's be real. And the game against Ohio State last year, he had to come back. Travis Etienne bailed him out, and the year at then when he played LSU, he just didn't look that good. He lost. This year, when he had to be great against Ohio State, and let's be real, Ohio State defense isn't, to me, but it isn't what it was in the past. Me and you have talked about it on the show with those pass rushers and stuff like that. It just isn't what it was in the past. And he didn't look good. He struggled. And to me, I was like, okay, well maybe it's because he don't got his top targets. But let's be real again. I don't know. I don't think there's a first rounder on that Ohio State offense, skill set wise. I don't think Chris Olave is a first rounder. I think he'll get drafted, but I don't think he's a first rounder. I don't think that Trey Sermon's a first rounder, even though he might be playing himself into the first round the way he's running. I don't think George Wilson is a first rounder. I don't think Rucker is a first rounder. So to say that, when Justin Fields got all this talent, he just making plays, and Trevor Lawrence, for whatever reason, isn't making the plays that he made when he had a T. Higgins, a 1,000-yard receiver that we see in the NFL right now. He isn't making the plays without a Justin Ross. So, and again, I said all year, like, I don't know, like who is the skill player on with Clemson, but who's the skill player really with Ohio State. For me, I want the guy that can create and make plays with anybody that's around him, because when you're picking that high, you're devoid of talent. that's why I have to go with Justin Fields because I don't know what they'll put around Trevor Lawrence. And it seems like you need to put more pieces around Trevor Lawrence to be great than you do with Justin Fields.
I thought he played decent last night. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought his skill position guys let him down. When Ohio State was physical, the corners were up, they were in the receiver's face, and they got hands on them. They struggled to get separation. It was when Ohio State didn't put hands on guys, when they fell in the zones or they fell in the soft man coverage, then Powell could dice up Sean Wade and make him fall like he did on the one touchdown. Mm-hmm. Like it was a completely different skill position wise. They were completely different when the game wasn't as physical. I thought Ohio State was the more physical team last night on both sides of the football. And I think that to me was the difference. I'm not saying that Clemson came out and was just like, we're going to run through them. But when your coach says that this team is the 11th best team in the country, that's the message that was sent, was they shouldn't be here. I kind of felt like Clemson didn't necessarily respect Ohio State. And then they came out and they drove down the field, punched them in the face, up 7-0. They get a 3-and-out. It looked like they were getting ready to run away with that game. It looked like man, this looked just like the first game. Yeah. I was like, man, I don't know about this, man. This is not a good look for the Big Ten again. The Big Ten can't get a dub. And then all of a sudden, Justin and Trey Sermon got it going, and Clemson couldn't catch up. They couldn't figure out. They couldn't make the adjustments. Ohio State was snapping the ball, and Clemson wasn't set up. It looked like for an entire drive. And I'm like, man, this doesn't look good on
I'm with you. I'm with you. They were without their play caller, their offensive coordinator, Clemson. Because
he looked like he was not prepared at all. It looked like he had no game plan for the tight ends. He was only focused on the wide receivers. The tight ends were running open and catching balls all night.
Hold on, bro. Boom, boom, boom. Making sure we was still live. Cutting out a little bit, but I agree with you. Which it looked bad on both sides. Brent Venables looked like he didn't have a game plan. It looked like Dabo Swinney didn't have a game plan. It looked like they said they rank 11th. We should come in here and we should roll them. Mm-hmm. I know their offensive coordinator or the play caller, he wasn't there. Dude who was calling the plays, he was young. He really didn't call plays. I was like, oh, what the freak is that? When they came on, it was like the play caller is not the play caller. I said it looked like it. It looked like the play caller isn't here. It looked like he out sick with COVID, whatever it is he had. So I was like, that kind of makes sense. And I was like, well, what does Dabo do? Because if Venable is the defensive play caller, and you see what happens when this offensive play caller is gone. I'm like, Dabo, what do you do besides provide bulletin board material for Ohio State? Yeah,
I'm assuming that he's a good motivator. I'm assuming that he's a good motivator. I'm assuming that he probably can recruit. But I'm not sure like the dynamic of, because he says he calls some, he's been calling some of the, he coordinates with the play callers as far as offensively. So I'm assuming that he got some sort of hand in on the offense. I know that offense was real vanilla. It almost looked like we're going to keep trying to do the same thing over and over again. Getting Travis Etienne on a wheel route, it worked the first time, and they kept trying to go back to that well, and Ohio State made the adjustment to it. It felt like they had no counterpunch. It felt like Clemson was not making adjustments at halftime. It was still a game. Then they came out and they scored, and I was like, okay, maybe Clemson is gonna claw their way out of it, show some championship medal, and they never really did. I was more impressed last night with Ohio State, and let me say this. I've been saying all year, I felt like Ohio State was one of the 4 best teams in college football. I just didn't think with the resume that they had that they should have got in over another team. I never thought that they weren't as talented or as good as Clemson and Alabama. They hadn't played. This is the best they played all year. I don't want nobody. This is the best they played. This is the best competition and the best result against the best competition. They didn't play that well against Penn State, even though Penn State had a down year, but they didn't play it particularly well. They didn't show well against Northwestern. They didn't show well against Indiana. So coming into this, you didn't really have high expectations, because this was the team you were expecting to see all year, and you hadn't seen it. And then they showed up when it mattered. I think Ohio State can close that gap with Clemson, because I feel like something. I'm not sure what it is. They're losing a little bit of something. We'll see what they do against Alabama, because that's a different beast that you gotta handle in Alabama.
Different beast on offense. Different beast on defense. I think Clemson's defense is a little bit better than Alabama's, but I think that Clemson was missing a lot of pieces. But like you said, different beasts offensively. You ain't gonna shut that. You ain't gonna stop that train. You ain't gonna stop that juggernaut. You just gotta learn. You gotta score points. So if Justin Fields is the number 1 pick in the draft, he's gonna have to prove it in the national championship game.
And Justin Fields has the skill set that traditionally Alabama defenses have been lit up by. So we'll see. I'm expecting fireworks on the 11th.
Definitely expecting fireworks. 2 things. I think Dabo Swinney caused them the game. Not wrong. With 2 calls. I think they was down 28. They were down 28-14 in the second quarter. It was 4th and 2. I said, Dabo, you got to go for it there. You have to go for it there, because the way that Ohio State is moving and they're moving up and down the field, you ain't going to be able to stop them. You need momentum. You need to take momentum back. Bringing the punter, kicked it. Boom, boom, boom. Ohio State moves the ball downfield, scores 35-14. That was the Justin Fields hit when he got hit with the targeting. They stopped them, 3rd and 2. It was 4th and 2. The targeting made it the first down. They scored a touchdown, 35-14. I said, it's over. Turned it off. Went to watch some of the basketball a little bit. Tuned back in. it was 42, I think 21, something like that. And I was like, yo, again, fourth quarter, but you got to go for it. Kicked it off again. I was like, it's those little decisions where I feel as though that he caused his team the game because he kept momentum in Ohio State's favor when he could have took momentum back. But trying to just trying to pick up that first down, just breathing life into your team. And I didn't see that from Justin. I didn't see that from Dabo. And it kind of made me think like, without the horses on defense, this Clemson team is not the same because they didn't have those horses, those juggernauts up front that they usually have, and the team is a little bit different. So again, shout out to Ohio State who did their thing, but I think Dabo Swinney caused this
Absolutely.
team. I think he caused his team just a fighting chance. I don't know if he make those calls if they win, but I think he caused them a fighting chance just for some of the decisions he was making. He looked like he was outcoached. Ryan Day looked like he was the better coach yesterday.
Man, he called them the game when he made it known that he felt as though Ohio State was the number 11 team in the country. You can say that you could try to preference it with they only had 6 games and I was only ranking teams. You couldn't be in my top 10 without playing a certain amount of games. You should have said nothing. That's the team that you were playing. You should have said nothing. You should have left it alone. This is a team that already was getting everything from outside of Clemson. Everybody from outside of Clemson was questioning whether or not Ohio State in it. They didn't need their opponent giving them bulletin board material. And I just felt like after that, I was like, "Ooh, this could get them to go out and beat Clemson by 3-4 touchdowns." That was not expected. I didn't think they had the defense to do that. But all I know is that game that game was better than the first one.
That game was better than the first one.
Even though the result was, I think, probably worse.
Looking at my man, pulling up his head coaching career. He tended to set. Listen, I'm not saying Dabo is on a hot seat or anything like that. I'm just looking at his record real quick with Clemson. Because I was like, what has he done without Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence? In 2011, was that what year was that? Was that Clemson? Was that Deshaun Watson, right? 2011, I think that's Deshaun
2011?
Watson. Yeah.
Nah.
No.
No, I don't think so.
How long has Deshaun Watson been in the NFL? 4 years?
Maybe 4 or 5 years. I say 2011. I think that's the CJ. I think that's the CJ Spiller. Why can I see? I can see the kid's face, but why can't I think of his name? The quarterback.
I'm thinking of the same thing. Clemson 2011 roster. Either way, my point was I was trying to see if he did anything with outside of Deshaun Watson, and Trevor Lawrence. Just to see how good of a coach he is. And okay, he's a solid coach. I'm trying to think of some of his marquee players.
Tajh Boyd, that was his name.
Tajh Boyd.
Tajh Boyd was the quarterback then.
Tajh Boyd. What's the wide receiver name for?
The wide receivers then was Sammy and Martavius Bryant.
Okay, yeah. Okay, monsters.
That's when he started. That's when he was starting to turn into wide receiver U.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, because I think they had 3 of them. They had 3 wide receivers.
He's been putting out. I think they had Adam Humphries too, but they had some really good teams. He's been there, and he's produced some guys in the NFL. He had to surpass the Florida States in that conference to get to where he is now. He had to go past Florida State, and then he had to surpass really all those teams in the SEC that were fighting with Alabama, the Auburns, the Floridas, the Georgias, the LSUs. He surpassed all of those teams. Now he has to maintain himself there, kind of like how Nick Saban has done. Nick Saban, he's not winning the national championship every year. He loses some games, but they come right back.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson is in that period where they're going to be tested on whether or not they can have that stability and that sustainability at the top of college football. I think they're in that crossroads because there's teams coming for them. I think North Carolina's coming for them. I'm not sure. We could talk about that now. We could segue right into that. Alabama is Alabama. And unfortunately, Notre Dame's still Notre Dame. And I wanted to say that because we were talking about Clemson sustaining themselves. I'm not sure Notre Dame will ever be able to compete with the upper echelon programs consistently. They're not a program that traditionally brings in stud athletes. They bring in really good football players, but there's not stud athletes that are difference makers when they can get the balls in their hand. That's not who Notre Dame is. They don't have stud athletes defensively that can compete consistently with stud athletes on the opposing teams. So I'm not sure if Notre Dame can get into a point where they can compete consistently with the better teams in the country.
I agree with you. I just did a quick Google search. I'm trying to figure out some of the best players that has come from Notre Dame, and I'm with you. No real stud athletes that stand out.
Really good football players, you know what I mean? I'm talking about way back. You think about the Tim Brown. Tim Brown was a tremendous wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Heisman Trophy winner. I think of only like 2 or 3 receivers to ever win. But Tim Brown wasn't a stud athlete. Jerome Bettis, big stud athletes, extremely good football players. And back then, you can win and compete with having stud football players that were average athletes. Nowadays, when you want to play in space, you have to have some really top-notch athletes. And I'm not sure Notre Dame can get those type of guys there. Maybe they can. Maybe Brian Kelly can figure out a way to get them in there, but I doubt it. I think we've seen the best of Notre Dame.
You've been there for a minute. I'm with you. I don't think that those type of athletes want to go to an independent conference. They want to go to a SEC or ACC. And not saying that Notre Dame doesn't have the cachet, name brand that those other conferences have. But I don't know if Notre Dame actually has the swagger that those other teams have. It's not as sexy as LSU or as a Florida or as a Georgia or as a Alabama or Clemson. It's not as sexy as those type of teams. So I'm with you. And where is Notre Dame again? Is it in Indiana? Indiana? Who the heck is signing up to go to Indiana if you are?
But they're signing up to go to Ohio State. They're signing up to go to Penn State. They're signing up to go to Michigan. I'm just saying, I don't want to always bring up that. You know what I mean? Because people, I think that's lazy when they bring up the academics. when they bring up the academic stuff. I'm like, nah, I don't really think. I think if you want to get a guy he doesn't have a 3.5, he doesn't have that 1250 on the SAT, but he's a really good football player, good kid. I think you'll figure out a way to get him into the school. That's just me. But I just don't. I'm like you. It's not a program that stands out. Notre Dame, I think they have something with the ACC if they want to stay there. The only difference, and again, me and you've had this conversation, I think they're a better fit for the Big 12. Just because the inconsistency of those programs and the inability for those programs to really sustain anything other than maybe Oklahoma continues to get quarterbacks, and they'll have a wide receiver here or there. That's it. That's what Notre Dame is. They'll have a quarterback here that gets some wide. I don't think you can be able to compete consistently with Clemson in the ACC. You're always going to be a bridesmaid.
And let's be real. I don't think they can compete with Oklahoma right now. That's just me.
See, right now, I agree because Oklahoma's playing defense. I agree because the way Oklahoma's playing defense, I think Rattlers, even though he's young, I think he's much better than the Ian Book. I think they have the weapons that are just as good, if not better, than Notre Dame's. I think Notre Dame needs to find a conference and stay there. The independent thing was fine when you was in the bowl championships, when you were in the BCS. That's fun. But with this college football playoff, you're gonna need a home. And I still think that consistently they'll be able to compete in the Big 12 more than they'll be able to compete in the
Pac-12. But did what is it? Geographically they can't fit in the Pac-12.
Geographically, it'll be a lot of travel, right, with them being in Indiana and everybody else really being on
the West Coast.
On the West Coast. So the travel time, I mean, think about it. I think they're in like is Indiana's Central Time or Eastern Time. Yeah. Either way, it's a 2-3 hour difference. So you could be. I think that's probably one of the reasons for the Pac-12. I think the Big 12 makes sense. The Big 10 make the perfect sense, but there's too many members in the Big 10 already. Yeah. Unless Nebraska wants to leave and go back to the Big 12 or something like that. But there's too many members in the Big 10. I think the Big 12 would be perfect for them as far as geographically, as far as recruiting bases, as far as competition consistently. I don't think they're going to be able to consistently compete with Clemson. And North Carolina is showing like Mac Brown is getting ready to turn that program completely around.
So, yeah. Find a home, like he said. Find a home, Indiana. Find a home. Speaking of Indiana, that's another team in the Big Ten that they will have to compete with as well. But find a home, Notre Dame, and that is your pathway to get back to the championships. Now, since we're talking about Notre Dame, that game, I'm gonna tell you this. I left that game once again saying that guy is the best player in college football.
Devontae, yeah.
Devontae, forget his name now. Devontae Smith, the best player in college football. There's no answer for him. There is zero answer for that guy. Anybody. And the answer for that guy is on Alabama. He's the other guy that's going to be a top 5 court player, and Patrick Surtain. Other than that, and I don't even know if he's an answer for him. There's no answer for him. The way they move him, the Steve Sarkisian is doing great things. The way they move him all around. And the crazy thing is when you look at his numbers, when you look at Jalen Waddle was there, you thought he was going to be the guy. You take Jalen Waddle out, and they're like, we can now key on Devontae Smith. Feel like he got better when Jalen Waddle went down.
And you have to share no target. He got more targets. So I think that's one of the things that kind of has been taken away is that Jalen Waddle has not been available all year. I think Mac Jones' numbers goes even more bonkers, but Alabama is just when they can play defense, I don't think you can beat them. Because I've never seen their offense be completely shut down. Not with the weapons that they have at the receiver position, and then, in my opinion, the best running back in college football. How do you stop that? When their defense can make stops, and I'm not saying they got to pitch a shutout, but when they can get stops when they need to get stops, when they can get teams behind down in distance, when they can create turnovers, Alabama's on another level than everybody else in college football.
I agree with you. I'm going to say this. I think Matt Jones is a first rounder. The reason I say I think he's a first rounder, and I know I talk about all the weapons that Matt Jones has. So what? So what, right? And you've been saying it. So what? He got all these weapons, but he utilizes them. It isn't like that. They are making Matt Jones look good, just being real with you, but he's also making them look good. Early on in that game, they were taking Devontae Smith out of the game. Say, okay, you want to take Devontae Smith out of the game? I'm gonna go to these tight ends because the tight ends start catching the ball. I'm gonna go to my other wide receiver. I'm gonna go to Najee Harris until my guy gets loose. I'm gonna pick you apart with my other pieces. He executes your game plan to a T. That's why I think he's great. That's why I think he is going to be a first rounder. He should be a first rounder because he executes the game plan. Coach, if the coach gonna say, "This is the game plan, Matt Jones," he's gonna say, "Okay, I'm gonna rock with it. I'm gonna go with it." And then he makes enough plays within the game to win football games, which is what we see. Again, I think he is the third best player on his offense, but that ain't a bad thing because he's still
healthy.
He still makes. You said best healthy. Yeah, he's the best healthy, the third best healthy, but he still does enough to win games.
What I like about him is, and I started thinking about that as Clemson and Ohio State was playing last night. I was looking at him like, man, Clemson, Justin Fields is picking you apart, and he missed a couple layups.
Yeah.
Mac Jones don't miss layups.
He don't at all.
If any of those guys are running wide open, he's gonna put the ball in a place where they can catch it. I don't know what you do with that team.
Nothing. Pray.
I don't know what you do with that team other than try to outscore them. You're gonna have to try to outscore them, which means Ohio State is gonna have to put on another almost flawless performance to beat Alabama. If Alabama comes out and plays the way that they've been playing all year, they've been playing great all year. Are they due for a stinker? Are they due for one of those bad games?
They had that already, I think, and they still won. They had it. I think they had it. We talked about it, right? They had it against Ole Miss.
Yeah, that was defensively, not offensively.
Man, offensively, they ain't having no bad game. I'm sorry.
And that's the thing. Like, are they gonna have a bad game offensively? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. I think that they are getting ready to light it up again on January 11th. I just hope that Justin Fields can match.
I'm looking up something real fast.
I think I am interested to see how Ohio State moves around Olave. If Surtain is going to shadow him more, or if Surtain is going to just stay on the side. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be real fun to watch.
Yo, Matt Jones is a beast. I'm sorry. I want to apologize to Matt Jones. I do want to apologize to Matt Jones. I've been talking crazy about him all year. I still don't think he should be a Heisman. I do think that he should be in the conversation because he is balling. But yesterday, 25 for 30 yesterday, 4 touchdowns. And I wanted to pull this thing up because I think his second best receiver is Mechie. And Mechie only had 3 catches yesterday, 53 yards. Not really explosive, but he just did it with everybody. He got his guy. He has his number one guy, Devontae. And then I'm going to utilize everybody else. Again, I want to apologize to my man Matt Jones because he's a great quarterback. He is a great quarterback. I know I've been high on my man Kyle Trask all season because he had to do more, but I'm going to say this. I probably would take Matt Jones over Kyle Trask in the draft just because he's going to execute your offense. We'll see.
Speaking of Kyle,
go ahead.
What did you think of his performance against Oklahoma?
If they had another year, if he had another year of eligibility, I think he should stay in college. I think just think about the three biggest games that he had. And again, I know he didn't have his weapons. I know in a couple of those he did not have his weapons. But the three biggest games of his life or his career, he didn't play terrible, but he didn't get the job done. He just didn't get the job done. We was on air when I was watching it, like the pick six. That's a play you can't make. You had another interception. Plays you cannot make, and I get it. Your offensive weapons, they was letting you down all game in that game against Oklahoma as well. But I just think the great ones will find a way to elevate the players around them. I think Dan Mullins also hurt him a little bit as well. But I just think I think that, well, he is a senior, so he ain't coming back. But it didn't look good to me. It didn't look promising. The way he went out, it just didn't look promising to me. And he's going to go to a team where I think that he needs to just develop and get his own and perfect his craft and his skills. I think he has all the tools to be good. I just think some of the decision makings that he makes sometimes is questionable. And again, that could be because it's Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen looked trash sometimes.
I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. This wasn't a good Florida defense, and I think sometimes he pressed because he knew he had to make plays in order for them to actually have a chance of winning. The Oklahoma game, I felt like he shouldn't have played. I felt like he hurt himself playing in that game. I feel like his stock fell, even though people might say, well, he didn't have this guy. He didn't have that guy. He didn't have this guy. You still can't throw 3 picks. And, in my opinion, be outplayed by the guy that was supposed to be backing you up. Now, he was a different dynamic at quarterback, but you still can't be outplayed. And I think that was not a good look for Trevor. For Kyle.
I agree with you. Kyle, again, I was talking about as the Heisman. He was the front runner as the Heisman. For the Heisman. And like you said, he just filtered. And I made that mandate. I said, Kyle, you have to stop being second at some point in your career. You have to stop being second, playing second fiddle. And maybe that's just who he is. Maybe he will always be second fiddle. He will always be a backup. He won't be the guy.
And there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong.
Because as a backup, you can get that opportunity to make a name for yourself and get a moment. I think he has a good skill set. Hopefully he gets drafted to a situation where he can sit behind a veteran and learn something. I think that would probably be the best for him.
I agree with you. Like I said, it was a monster year, man. Just 43 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Monster year. Taking nothing away from it. I think he get going to a team like Pittsburgh or a team like New Orleans or Tampa Bay, something like that, where you can sit behind a great quarterback and develop. I think that is the best thing for him. So yeah, but contrast, I'm with you. Playing in that game, the odds were stacked against you. I would have played because if he pulls that game out, I think he's stuck. It was a lose. It was a win lose. I mean, for him, you pull it out, people singing your praises. I think your stock rises. But you show up again. You show up like this. You might be a third rounder now.
I agree with you, but the odds of him pulling that out without the experienced weapons, he still had. That's Florida. They got skill guys, but they're not as experienced as the other guys that he was missing. I just felt like when all of those other guys started opting out to prepare for the draft, I know he wants to go. I want to finish my career. I got a chance to play in a big bowl game. I'm gonna take that opportunity. Kudos to him. I like it, but here's the downside to that when you take that that risk. So hopefully, again, I want him to get drafted to a place where he can learn behind somebody and develop a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's get to this other game real quick. Georgia, Cincinnati. Did Cincinnati prove that they can play with the big dogs?
I say yes. I'm going to take it a step further. If they had both their tackles, they win that game. They couldn't run the football. They couldn't run the football to start away that game, and that game flipped on the turnover. They were up, I think, 21-10 or something like that, and they turned the ball over. Georgia goes down, scores a touchdown. I think they didn't get the 2-point conversion, and they made it 21-16. Cincinnati needed like 2 first downs, and they couldn't get them. They could not get them. And I'm not talking about it be 3rd and 7s. They couldn't pick up. They couldn't pick up some 3rd and 2s, some 3rd and 3s. Like and it wasn't like they were getting to like 4th and inches. They were losing yardage on those 3rd and shorts. That was the difference in the ball game. There's those 2 tackles not being able to just move the football enough at the end to win that game. Georgia was Georgia to me. Defensively stout and offensively periodic. Like JT Daniels, you could see that if he was there all year, that team would have probably been completely different. But I thought Cincinnati shooted themselves well, man. I don't think if you left that game saying, see, Cincinnati ain't got no business playing with the big boys, I think you're fooling yourself. I felt like they handled themselves well, considering that they were down their two starting tackles. I think that's a 3-point loss, and that was after I think they only had like 102 yards or something like that in the second half, and like 79 of them came on the one run, and they were still in that game. So that means their defense was playing well enough as well against that good Georgia offense who runs the football well. Pickens is no scrub on the outside. JT Daniels is a solid quarterback. Cincinnati's defense held its own. Its offense couldn't make enough plays when they needed to make plays. And I think it was because of the offensive line band.
Cincinnati's legit. That's why I left. I thought Cincinnati was going to pull it out. I thought he was going to win the game. Like you said, it just seemed like if they had all their weapons and their talent, they would actually be able to pull that game out. That was a good showing by Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati was the best team, the better team in that game. Georgia was the more talented team. Cincinnati to me was the better team in that game. It just so happened that they left a couple plays on the field, maybe the moment or whatever it was. Maybe talent showed up at the end, towards the end, where they couldn't move the ball on those short yardage games. But Cincinnati can absolutely play with anybody. I think that if they go to the SEC, they can legit play in the SEC. Cincinnati can play with anybody. Just watching what I've seen from them, that's a good football team right there. Which goes to say that again, what you saying, we need something more for these group of the other divisions, not the Power Five. We need something else. We need something else for them because they can legit compete with anybody. So, yes, Cincinnati can actually play with the big dogs. We got games on tap today, but I'm like, what game stands out? Dan Mullins fired 2 defensive staffers. Dan Mullins, you need to fire you as a play caller.
Yeah, I seen that too, but I was like, oh snap!
But
Alvin Kamara tested positive.
Oh yeah, I seen it. Yeah, he out. Yeah, he out.
Playoffs is iffy for him.
Playoffs is iffy for him.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's different. Oh my God.
Yeah, because you think he has to be 10 days past since he tested positive. So he tested positive yesterday. He's definitely gonna be out Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how this week go, he might not play next Saturday or Sunday, whenever their wild card game is potentially.
Listen, I'm excited about what the news I just looked at. My God. Listen, we still got college football games that's on tap today. Want to pick them a little. Want to gloss over them real quick. Ole Miss, Indiana. I think Indiana trounced them. Is there any games that stand out to you today? I see one that stands out to me that I probably are tuned into.
For me, it's 2. Texas A&M, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Texas A&M is a 9-point favorite. That says a lot to me. But I'm also interested to see Oregon and Iowa State. How does Iowa State handle, in my opinion, a disappointing performance in the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma? And then Oregon. This is it for the Pac-12. Right? Now, there's no more bowl games for the Pac-12. And I don't know about nobody else. They have not been impressive all year long. All year long, they haven't been impressive as a conference. So they get an opportunity to show themselves against, in my opinion, a really good football team in Iowa State. So I'm interested in that one. But Texas A&M, North Carolina, that's the game that I think everybody's going to be tuned in on.
Yeah, that's the big game we tuned into. I'm not really. I think that Iowa State Oregon game can get ugly.
I'm expecting it to get ugly. I expected that line to be the Texas A&M North Carolina line. That's a 9-point line, but the Iowa State is only 6.5 favorite over Oregon.
Sam Howell about to come out here and show his candidacy. He about to put the world on notice next year. Watch next year's line. AP Heisman front runner Sam Howell. That's what it's gonna say. Heisman front runner Sam Howell.
Also, this is an opportunity for Jimbo and Texas A&M. You wanted a seat at the dance, you didn't get it. How do you handle not getting that seat that you thought you earned? I don't even understand how you were in the conversation, but that's just me. I still don't think that they're the 5th best team in the country. That's ridiculous, in my opinion. They have one good win over Florida, and the one other game that they played against Alabama, they were absolutely embarrassed, but they're the 5th best team in the country. I don't get it. But got opportunity to show who you are. Kellen Mond, Jimbo Fisher, where is that program going? Is it headed in the right direction? Because coming into this season, there was high expectations because the program had been underperforming. So, chance to put I guess you could say exclamation point on this season and get it ready, looking for 2021 for Texas A&M, because they're gonna have a lot coming back at them next year, because now teams are going to be like, oh, okay, you're supposed to be this team. Alabama's not going anywhere. LSU will be back. I'm not sure what Auburn's doing. Georgia will be back. Florida will be back. So Texas A&M, the SEC will be back next year. The question is, will you still be at the top, or will you be in the middle of the pack?
I'm with you. Yeah, that's all the games I got. I do think that Indiana Ole Miss game will be exciting. I think that it will be high scoring excitement. So I think that'll be exciting. Not really intrigued by it, but I just think it'll be a high scoring game. Can Lane Kiffin win the bowl game? We'll see. We'll see. I want to jump to football. Couple of things you just said, or NFL. Alvin Kamara, him not being there Sunday. How does that bode for the Saints? And I want to see, can they get knocked down, or are they locked into the number 2 seed real quick? No. They can get knocked out of the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
And
they win, and they lose and Seattle wins.
Seattle's the number 2 seed.
Yeah, they solidified their division by sweeping Tampa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they can't finish they won't finish any less
than the 3 seed.
Than the 3rd seed.
But see, for me, if they stay at the number 2 seed, they play possibly New Orleans, or they can either play Arizona, New Orleans, or the Rams. If they go to that 3 seed, they can play either one of those teams either. So that's probably why they're like, you know what, I really don't care. 2 or 3, I'm going to play one of those 3 teams. Without Alvin Kamara,
I would care.
If you play, which one of those 3 you play?
No, I wouldn't care about that. I would care whether or not I'd have to go to Seattle, potentially in the 2nd round, or Seattle has to come to me.
Come to me, right? I'm with you.
That would be my motivation. If I don't have to go to the 12th man, I won't want to go to the 12th man.
This one, I agree with you. But this is why I would care in the 1st round. If, say, the Rams win Sunday or they lose, but say, because I legit think Chicago's going to lose. I don't think they're going to beat Green Bay. I just don't. I don't think they're going to beat Green Bay. So I think Chicago's out. I think the Cardinals and the Rams are legit locks, because I don't think the Rams beat Arizona without Jared Goff. So if I have to go, or if the Rams come to New Orleans, healthy, I don't know if New Orleans wants to play a Rams team that's clicking all cylinders. Because what do the Saints do? They want to pass the ball. They want to dink and dunk. Well, the Rams got the best corner in the game that's going to shadow your guy. So they're going to take him out. They also got another corner. Got that defense is just legit. So I don't know if they want to be playing it's just positioning matchups. I don't know if they want to play the Rams in the 1st round.
I don't think anybody wants to play the Rams. Period. But I think if I'm the Saints, I want to stay at 2. I want the rest of the NFC playoffs to come through me, and then if I have to go to Lambeau, I have to go to Lambeau.
I got you. I'm with you. I got you. I think I'm being real with you. Bold prediction right now. I think the Saints are one and done. I think they're one and done, regardless of who they play in the first round. I think they're going to be one and done. I just think the matchups don't fare well for them.
I think they're fine if they can avoid. I don't think they'll play Tampa. So
no, they won't play Tampa.
So they're fine there. Just because it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I think they're fine if they play the Bears. I think they're fine if they play the Cardinals. I just don't want to play the Rams.
I think the best bet is the Bears.
I think I have not the Cardinals' inconsistency scares me. It really does.
I got you, and they're young. This will be their first time in the playoff. But I think Kyler is dynamic.
Absolutely.
I think their defense, the Saints defense, can give the Cardinals a problem.
I agree. I think it's going to be one of those situations where if New Orleans can avoid the Rams, I think New Orleans is fine until they have to go to Lambeau. I do not trust Drew Brees, and I also don't trust Tom Brady going to cold, frozen tundra, snowy Lambeau Field. But that's just me. I'm not sure if everybody else feels that way though. I lost down? Yes, I did. Well, I'm gonna continue on. Let's see here. The Saints. Let's look at the other matchups.